So I mentioned if you've got a roll and a block, that'd be great to start off this class. If you don't have that, but you've got a bolster, you can use that. Alternatively, you can use nothing and we'll just get ourselves started and ready. If you are using the bolster, you're going to set it up so that it is around about your mid-back, so your head and shoulders are a different height to the pelvis. If you are using the roll and the block, then it goes roll and block, or maybe you've got bed pillows that you can use for that. So you get the support for the shoulders and a change of height for the head. If you don't have anything, but you have your yoga mat, roll it up and have it underneath your shoulders and your head. If you have nothing, then lay on your back, that will still work, and draw your shoulder blades down, palms face up. And this should give you a chest opener-like position. And when working chest opener, we've got a really different physical opportunity to work in a way that opens the front of the chest and allows the neck to lengthen. So periodically, every few breaths, allow yourself to work a slightly deeper breath so you can navigate getting the breath a wee bit more expansive. So using chest opener as a way to do a bit of a postural reset. Almost everything that we do outside of our yoga practice, whether it is reading on your phone, basically anything, even seated, there is usually this forward collapse because the head is really heavy. So we're looking to use today's class to gently create some opening around some of the really tight areas, around the shoulders, the upper back, the neck. And using gentle movement once we've warmed all of these areas up to create a sense of relief that hopefully you can carry into the rest of the day and maybe into the rest of the week. Now that is a lofty goal for sure. Switch up your breathing so you are doing an inhale in a way that is moving the rib cage only. If you don't know how to do that, use your exhale to pull the belly muscles in, and your inhale is going to then expand the ribs if the abdomen is kept somewhat firm. Use this breath to get from the back ribs to the side ribs to the front ribs expanding. If you're newer to class, then doing deep breathing in any meaningful way is going to be great. Intermediates, if you've been working ujjayi, that whisper quality sound, for a wee while, this is a good time to do ujjayi, but to have it so that it is less strenuous. Maybe you know your ujjayi in the past has always got to be like the loudest, the most powerful, the most expansive. It doesn't need to, and that can lead to complications on its own. So get it expanding. Now, whether you are in chest opener or not, ideally maintaining that breath that is moving into the chest and the upper back. Bring the arms straight up towards the ceiling, so palms are facing forwards, and then open the arms out to the sides so your palms then face up. So it's like cactus arms but supine. Squeeze your shoulder blade back, so if the roll or the block or the bolster is there, you can give that a bit of a squeeze with your shoulder blades. Maintaining that level of engagement, inhale to reach the arms towards the back of the mat. So not necessarily worrying about going down, but more reaching back. Exhale, bring the elbows down alongside your waist. Elbows squeeze towards your low ribs. Inhale, reach the arms towards the back of the mat. If your front ribs are shearing open, pull in through abdomen. Exhale, bring the elbows down close to your ribs and squeeze the elbows towards the ribs. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. Lengthen them towards the back of the mat. Exhale, bring the elbows down alongside your waist and squeeze the elbows towards each other. So obviously if you're flat to the floor, you're doing this but keeping the arms off the ground. Inhale, reach the arms towards the back of the room. Now pause. Take a hold of each opposite elbow. At this point, it does not matter which one you are holding. Inhale, bring your shoulder blades and shrug them up towards your ears. Keep them in this elevated position, but allow the arms to relax overhead. It is irrelevant whether the arms touch the floor or not. You may need to adjust your neck position, so if you feel like your neck is arcing up from the ground, maybe yes, do adjust where the block is underneath your head, if that's useful. Change the cross in the arms. It's useful to get the shoulder blades coming up a wee bit a second time, so you can get that elevation and a wee bit retraction, so they squeeze towards each other just a smidge. And ideally letting the arms relax. If it feels like there's discomfort to the inside of the shoulder joint, you can also do this as an open arm overhead, and see if that feels preferable. Bring the arms back down alongside your waist, roll onto your left hand side, and then bring yourself up from the ground. Now the prop setup is going to stay pretty similar. If you don't have props, this pose can completely exist without them. So if you were using the roll and the block, or even the bolster, if you're using the bolster and you have a block, you can set something under it. This will give you less of a severe angle going into this, so back tukey, that might be preferable. You can totally come into this without, so this would be deer pose, and you can do it without the bolster. But set up your left hip so that it is near to the props. Legs are going to be at a 90-degree angle, so both legs are at 90 degrees, right knee going straight towards the front, left knee going straight out to the left. Take the hands towards the back of the mat, so you feel you're already starting to rotate. If you know that the low back is sensitive, this left side low back, just slide it a wee bit towards the front of the mat. Exhale, bring your chest down towards the props and turn your head to the left. So you are looking away from your legs. So this is part one. You can stay here. If you have got a slightly raised prop or you're using roll and block, that right arm can thread underneath the bolster, reaching the left arm towards the back of your mat to create some space. Now, as this is a class that is in nature a bit more gentle, you can be pretty passive here and let deep breathing do the work of opening up through the chest and the ribs, or you can apply pressure with that left palm to generate a wee bit more twist. But obviously at this point, you're not going to go massively far, and it shouldn't be very strenuous. If it is, it's going to get really uncomfortable. Now, regardless of whether you have props or not, breathe in a way that gets the abdomen expanding now. So we did thoracic breath at the start, but this one, especially if you're using props, when you get your abdomen moving, it will create a pressure change through the different regions of your back. Pressing with your palms, inhale, bring yourself up through center. Tentatively make your way towards the other side, so you can either roll across your hips or whichever other way feels better. Positioning the legs so they're at 90-degree angles, right knee out to the right, left knee towards the front. You may as well take the time to make sure your legs are on your yoga mat, or at least the knees. Turn the chest towards your props. In this instance, you're either bringing the chest down to look to the right, or maybe taking that left arm underneath. Right arm can either rest or actively press. It really depends what kind of tone you were looking for at this point. Sometimes my back actually appreciates that press because the rotation can come into the mid back more so than the lower back. And that usually feels a lot better when I'm working that. So aiming that your right side ribs feel like there's a lifting and the left side ribs are feeling a lowering at the same time. Use deep breathing in a way that is expanding the abdomen. So if you've done class with me before, that's kind of your standard ujjayi but making sure that the start of your inhale is not fast, really slow, as luxurious as possible. All right, now using your arms, inhale, start to bring yourself up from there. Set the props aside. You're going to use your yoga mat as a prop for this. If you don't have a yoga mat or you're not using a yoga mat, a towel would work for this if you've got anything like that to hand. Take the front of your yoga mat and roll it up pretty tight. And you're going to need to roll up like 1/3 to 1/2 of your mat. Just enough that there's a little bit of something there, something tangible. If you know your mat is like paper thin or a travel mat, you might need the whole thing. You are going to be taking where your left arm meets your shoulder, but mostly the shoulder blade region, down onto this piece. So bring yourself down to laying on the side and get where your shoulder blade and your arm meets down onto that roll. If you've ever done one of my myofascial classes, this is like an area you will have worked with before. 2 choices for head and neck. You can either completely rest your head down onto your arm, or if you're curious about going a wee bit further with this, bend the arms so you're getting that length through the tricep and support your head in your hands. Bent legs will take the pressure off of this. There's no point in doing straight legs and pretty much falling over with this. There's no real redeemable benefit to just doing this as a balance pose. For now, do your breathing in a way that feels left side ribs expanding. If your head is resting down on your arm, so if you're doing that resting on, I want you to notice if the right nostril starts to clear a little bit. It's an interesting little mechanism between your lungs and your nostrils. It's a curious wee creature. If you're holding your head, probably not happening. Now begin to pitch your chest a little bit forward. So you're thinking the angle of the chest is tilting downwards, and then the angle of the chest starts to come back to center and then pitching upwards. Aiming to keep your breathing steady, and we're kind of scrubbing into notoriously tight muscles. So your lats, which are going from your arm all the way down to your pelvis, but then the serratus, which, as you might imagine from the word serrated, kind of serrates and goes into the spaces between the ribs and the intercostals. So really important when it comes to things like side bends, which might be your focus today. Okay, tentatively make your way to the other side. So you can either roll over your back or pass through tabletop, whichever feels more comfortable. That right side is coming down. So if you're on your arm, you want to feel like the pressure is on your shoulder blade rather than your arm. Either go for a relaxed neck or support your head in your hands. If you're doing the support, initially allow that right side to sink down towards the mat as much as possible. Periodically, you might need to pick yourself up and just shimmy into it a wee bit more if you're getting stuck to the ground. And the deeper you get your breathing here, the more we're going to start to get into that right side rib isolation. So if you're thinking, how is this a pose? It is technically a side bend for the right hand side, whilst pretty relaxed. Quite a good thing. Begin to pitch the chest a little bit forwards and also back through neutral and a little bit back. Don't be afraid about how far back you can go. You can really start to move into some interesting tissue, especially if you're right up into the underarm. You're going to start getting into some of those rotators. Curious wee creatures. And it's growly. All right, bring yourself up from there. Unroll your yoga mat and bring yourself to all fours. From all fours, just take a moment to press the floor away. So you might find that there are some little kinks that need to be eased out before we go anywhere. With your head and neck position here, especially when we start to look at work through the shoulders, there is a tendency the head will drop down. I've been calling this like the gutter balls, like the lowest common denominator. If you know that you're tight there, it will constantly try to get back to that. Inhale, push the floor away, lift through the back of the skull and look very slightly forwards. Notice that it's not this, where the back of the neck is completely compressed. There is a bit of a chin tuck, so there is space at the back of the neck. Inhale, push the floor away and lift between your shoulder blades. Exhale, squeeze your shoulder blades back, almost as if your upper arms are squeezing to the ceiling. If you moved your head, you probably didn't move your shoulders. Inhale, push the floor away and lift between your shoulder blades. Exhale, squeeze shoulder blades back. Inhale, press the floor away, lifting between the shoulders. Exhale, squeeze shoulder blades back. Inhale, press the floor away, now pause. We're going to be moving into thread the needle, but doing a more dynamic version first. Don't worry, dynamic does not necessarily mean fast, we're just going to be moving. Take your right arm straight out to the right. And we've been looking at this for a wee while. Instead of doing this thing, where you pop your shoulder forwards and move your arm and tell yourself you've twisted, your aim is to move your rib cage so the arm isn't doing anything funky. So it should feel that if you come back through center, you are still in that straight line with your chest. If not, then it's probably all hinging from the shoulder, which isn't really doing what you think it's doing. So from where you are, inhale, open the right arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale, take the right arm down underneath your left, but don't take too much weight onto it. Inhale, open the right arm out to the right, twist back up to the right. So it's a big range of motion. I did say we're not staying down there. Exhale, thread through. Inhale, bring yourself up. So it's quite a big range. Exhale, thread that right arm down. Inhale, lift. So a lot of muscle groups involved. Exhale, bring the arm down. Now this time, do stay down there. Press with the left palm to assist in that lifting through the left ribs, but shift a wee bit more weight into your left knee. Right palm is facing up, so if you've rotated it to face down, let it be up and slide that right shoulder blade down, just a smidge. If that left arm, the one that's kind of alongside your head, feels really restricted, go ahead and take the left arm overhead and see if that is a better position to keep that left side open. Press into your left palm. Inhale, bring yourself back to center. A couple of cat rounds before we move into the next round of that. Inhale, lift the skull, lift the sit bones, squeeze your shoulder blades down a wee bit. Exhale, tuck tailbone down, press into your hands. This time the head and neck is moving with the rest of the spine. Inhale, point the sit bones up, lift skull, squeeze your hands towards your legs. Exhale, tuck tailbone down, push with the hands. Inhale, come to a neutral spine. So remember, head and neck is long rather than dropped. Open your left arm straight out to the left. Inhale, open that left arm up. Exhale, thread it down underneath the right, bending that right arm. Inhale, come up, it's moving dynamically. Exhale, bring it down. So remember, dynamic doesn't mean fast. You definitely don't need to rush. Inhale, open up. So if you're nervous that you're not following my breath cues, you know where we're going. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, open it up. Exhale, bring it down. So really big postural muscles working here. Inhale, open up. Make sure the head hasn't dropped. Exhale, bring that down. This time you're staying down. Head and neck tends to go into a wee bit of a chin tuck here. Pick the head up, lean it back a wee bit to the left. Inhale, press into the right palm to help turn the right ribs, maybe reaching the right arm towards the front of the mat if that is a better side bend position for you. So it helps create a wee bit more space in that right shoulder. Use your breathing to help excavate into all those different regions around the ribs. So think about all the different muscles we have been speaking to and engaging with so far. Inhale, press into your right hand, bring yourself back through center. Sit back onto your heels and then bring yourself up. Now, some of you will be doing this in a kneeling position in all fours. It keeps the plane pretty comfortable. If you can't kneel, maybe the knees aren't so happy with it. You can do this anywhere that is almost kneeling towards tabletop, but I do find tabletop to be more challenging for the way we're working the shoulder than what it would be for the knees. If you are new to kneeling, sitting on a block can take the immediate pressure out of the knee joints if it's that full bend that is the challenge. So from where you are, take your hands down, so whether it is kneeling, supported kneeling, or tabletop, which is still totally kneeling. Take your left hand down towards the center. Your butt shouldn't move during all of this. This is going to be very much for your shoulders and neck. Inhale, reach your right arm straight forwards, and then lift it up so the arm is in line with the rest of you. Your low ribs draw in through there. So if you're sitting like straight up, definitely make sure the left hand is down on the ground. Inhale, lift your right shoulder blade up towards your right here. Exhale, open the right arm out to the right. Pause here. So we're gonna do this first round a little slower. Now with the right arm out to the right, has your shoulder joint slipped to the front of the socket, or can you keep the arm sitting centralized but lift the back of the hand? Turn the palm, so now the palm faces up. So your aim is that the thumb is turning towards the back of the mat, and then squeeze that hand up. Inhale, reach the arm towards the back of the mat, but without twisting your chest. Chest faces down. Exhale, bend your right hand, and then lay the hand towards your left shoulder. Inhale, lift your hand off of your back. That's the hardest part. Straighten the arm, and then bring it all the way back around towards the start. Exhale, bring the hand down. Okay, so we're going to do that as a breath cycle. Inhale, lift that right arm, look very slightly forwards. Exhale, open the right arm out to the right, rotating the arm, the chest should stay fairly still, and bend the arm. Inhale, lift it back up and sweep the arm around towards the front. Exhale, bring the arm down. These are harder than they look. If your collarbones are turning to face the side, you're using your mid-back, which I do advocate, but not in this exercise. We want to keep the chest really still. Inhale, reach that right arm forwards, lift the right shoulder blade. Exhale, take the arm on a journey around and back, rotating the arm and bending it. Inhale, lift that arm up, sweep it back around towards the front. Exhale, bring that hand down. Okay, left side. We'll do the first round a wee bit slower. Inhale, reach the left arm forwards. Lift your head, so make sure that it hasn't gutter balled down. Take another deep breath and move your left shoulder blade up towards your left ear. Exhale, open the left arm out to the left, palm faces down, but squeeze the arm up. Make sure it isn't doing anything funky in the joint. Now rotate your left thumb towards the back of the mat and lift that arm. Exhale, bring the arm around towards the back, bend the elbow, back of the hand is sitting close to that right shoulder blade. For my eventual dream for you is that you can wash between your own shoulder blades unassisted. Ooh, that's what I want for Christmas. Inhale, lift that left hand, reach it around back towards the front, but without lifting the left ribs. Exhale, bring the arm down. Yeah, really hard, right? Try doing that with weights. Don't try doing that with weights. Inhale, reach the left arm up, open it around towards the left. Exhaling, bring the arm around. Hand is moving towards the shoulder blade, but without putting too much weight on that arm. Inhale, lift the arm up, sweep it around towards the front of the mat. Exhale, bring the arm down. One more. Inhale, lift the left arm. Exhale, take it around to the left, round your back, almost tapping your right shoulder blade. Inhale, lift the arm. Exhale, sweep it around towards the front, and then release that hand down. Okay. Come on to all fours. Move the block aside if you were using anything like that. From your tabletop position, extend your left leg back, straightening it, and then put that knee down, and then take the other knee back to that range. If your wrists are feeling growly today, you can do this range like this. If you watch for a sec, you'll be inhaling to shift forwards. Notice the pelvis has come down, so there's a line between shoulders, pelvis, and knees. It's not this, it's still engaged. And exhaling to shift back, pressing the hands and hips back. Stronger day, inhaling to shift forwards into plank. Spine is neutral, not doing a tucked tailbone. Exhaling to shift the hips up and back. It's the same movement, it's the same idea of some of the movement ranges that we do so far, this range in the shoulders. And it's one that we use a lot in our yoga practice, but it doesn't get much of a look in, so we're looking at it. So either this longer all fours position, so a supported tabletop, or do knees lifted. I want you to decide how intense you wish this to be. Deep breath in, your tabletop or half tabletop. Exhale, press the hips back. Elbows are spinning as if they could point to the ground. Inhale, shift forwards. Lengthen the skull forwards. Remember, the neck has to change position. Exhale, press the hips back. So here, you're thinking biceps and ears are close to each other. Inhale, shift forwards. The head is probably going to have to lengthen forwards a wee bit. Exhale, shift the hips up and back. Inhale, shift forwards. Exhale, glide the hips back. Inhale, set your knees down. If kneeling is comfortable, it's just a really easy go-to when you're doing down dog stuff. If it isn't working for you, then sit cross-legged. For now, just put the puzzle pieces of this together with one arm and then we'll do everything we need to do. Bring your right elbow in towards your right ribs. So you want it not to be sitting in slap bang underneath the shoulder. It needs to sit a wee bit in front and then in a little, so it's as if it's like the ribs are kind of on the diagonal. Here, it's that part that the arm is sitting into. Squeeze your elbow into your ribs and back against your ribs, so the arm is fixed in position, and then lift your head up. Exhale, only rotate that right arm out as much as you can without lessening everything. It should feel like it barely goes anywhere. Now, looking at that arm, I want you to look at where the line of your forearm is going. Maintain everything and inhale to reach the arm in that line. And then relax the arms. So the aim is you're feeling some of the muscles where your arm and shoulder meet, having to do a lot of work. Okay, so we'll do the left arm. Bring your left arm. I realize from a mirror point of view, this is no longer what you would see as my right arm. That elbow is in front. Squeeze the elbow in and back. Exhale, rotate the arm out to the side. Look at where it's going. Inhale, reach with that arm. So it's only going towards straight, so it's in line with the shoulder. And then relax the arm. So it's not going up here, it's just straight in line. Bring both in. This is, if you think one at a time is tough, oh, two, double the fun. Squeeze the elbows in and back and lift your skull. Get your elbows sliding down away from the ears. Deep breath in. Exhale, open the forearms away from each other. Inhale, start to reach out through those arms, but keeping that rotation. Exhale, relax the arms. Bring the forearms back through center. Deep breath in. Exhale, rotate the arms. Inhale, begin to reach those arms out, so almost as if your elbows could face forwards as you reach. And then relax your arms. If you are kneeling, switch towards cross-legged or do Baddha Konasana if Baddha Konasana is a pose that your lower back can tolerate. If you normally do your seated poses sitting on a block, it doesn't work so well for side bends, which is where we're heading in a moment. Take your right hand out to the right for now. And take the left arm so that the palm is facing forwards and take it overhead so the palm is then facing down. So this is our eventual side bend position. Bend your right arm and open that arm back. So you're doing a bit of chest opener. And then bring the arm down. So you're sweeping the arm forwards. Inhale, sweep it so the palm faces down. Exhale, bend the elbows, squeeze the shoulder blade back and take it on this circle back and down. Inhale, sweep the arm up. Now you can either do this so it's only your arm moving, which is particularly useful for those of you that have any back stuff going on where the back is static, or if your back is happy to take a bit of movement, let the rib cage move with this so you create a little bit of movement for the mid-back. I'm all for getting every single bit of you moving. Now the next time the arm sweeps around, pause. Anchor down through your left sit bone. Inhale, lift up through left side ribs. So finding dynamic movement and static is kind of a little bit of our movement theme today. Diagonal side bend. Take the left arm down so that it's going towards the front right corner of your mat, and take the hands in that direction. So instead of going straight in the middle, we're going off to the side. Inhale, lift chest. Exhale, begin to walk the hands forwards. It might be a little, it might be a lot, but reach with the left arm more so that it's on its fingertips. So that one is very actively reaching. If you feel really tight in the back, use your right fingertips behind you to help with that forward action and reach the left arm ahead. So this doesn't need to look great big huge, great big staggering. Use your active legs to widen the knees, whether you are cross-legged or seated. You should feel the buttock muscles starting to fire up. Inhale, walk both hands through towards center and then walk back up the center line. So sometimes coming up from the side can feel really, well, garbage. If you're in Baddha Konasana and you're regretting it, change the cross in your legs, or change to cross-legged. If you're in cross-legged, switch to the other cross. Take the left hand out to the left so you're on the fingertips. Inhale, bring that right arm over so the palm faces down. We're getting those rotations first. Exhale, bend the right elbow, taking the arm back, shoulder blade squeezes back and sweep the arm down. Inhale, sweep the arm around so the palm faces downwards. Exhale, open that shoulder back, bring the arm down. Inhale, sweep it into the side bend. Now you're welcome to start taking this into a range that moves the rib cage, so you end up with a circular action happening through the ribs. Mid-back tight, this might be a good way for you to start getting these muscles moving a little bit more. The next time your arm comes around into side bend, stay in the side bend. Anchor down through your right sit bone. If your left hand is up, make sure it's flat. Inhale, lift up through right side ribs. Exhale, wrap right shoulder blade towards the underarm and relax your neck. So make sure relaxed neck doesn't start to translate as head falling forwards. Not quite it. Aiming that both sides of the neck are simply not straining. Diagonal forward bend. Either exhale to bring that right hand down, so you're going on a diagonal to the left, and start to walk the hands forwards. Right arm is doing an active reach, or if it feels better to get a wee bit of support from that left hand behind, use that, and right hand is reaching forwards. For now, we don't need to see any real significant depth here. We're just kind of seeing what's happening. Use deep breathing, especially if the pose is getting a bit frustrated, or you're getting frustrated with the pose, rather. The pose itself has no ability to get frustrated or not. Inhale, bring yourself up. Alright. If you're able to, from a cross-legged position, rock towards all fours, then come to all fours. If that's not comfortable, legs go around to the side and you make your way there. Otherwise, those rotations might feel pretty good. Go for that long plank. So maybe it's knees down, maybe it's knees lifted, but we're definitely going to down dog. We're going to use that. Exhale, press your hips up. Have a look towards your hands. Inhale, start to walk your feet forwards and aim that your shoulders go above your hands, but then also that the shoulders go a little bit in front of the hands as you walk the feet in. Take the feet hip distance, bend them enough that the ribs can rest on the thighs, and then relax down into the forward bend. If you feel like you're in a hangled angle, so I call this pose hangled angle, where the legs are straight and the back is so rounded that it's probably impossible, the hamstrings are feeling anything, I recommend you bend your knees a ton. Either fold the arms, taking a hold of the insides of the elbows, relaxing the arms down, or if you're curious about neck traction, this was a bit weird, interlace the fingers behind the back of your neck and bring the elbows to touch underneath your jawline and let the arms relax. Now, getting your arms to relax there is a challenge because it feels like you're wearing a literal neck brace. But it's worth it. If you're doing the neck brace one, you might find it easier to breathe through your mouth. Whichever version you're doing, release the hands down. Take the left hand down so it is a little bit in front of where your feet are. So I'm creating an equilateral triangle between the feet and the hands. Inhale, open the right arm out to the right and turn the ribs to the right. So rather than just your arm doing it, turn the chest. Take a little bit of a bend into your left leg and work your right leg a little bit straighter. So you can start to get into some of the tighter muscles to the outside of that leg. Now, you can volume control this as much as you need to by keeping the legs still pretty bent. So straightening, not necessarily fully straight. Exhale, bring that right hand down. Inhale, twist the left side up, thinking left arm is lifting but not any further than the shoulder. Perhaps left leg is straightening as the right leg bends. Just see how that feels. If you're already at your forward bend limit, then don't worry about straightening the legs out. There's no rush for that stuff. Deep breath in. Exhale, release the hands down, but come onto your fingertips on the ground. So if you can't reach the floor, trust me, if you bend your legs, you can definitely get those fingertips down. Half lift. Inhale, scoop your ribs towards the front of the mat. Make sure it's ribs, and then there's a little bit of lift through the back of the skull, but not enough that you can see forwards, just enough that you can see pretty much straight down. Forward bend, exhale, flatten the hands and allow the head and neck to relax down. Push down through the inner arches of your feet. Half lift, inhale, scoop your chest forwards, come up onto the fingertips. Plank, exhale, hands go down, step the feet back. In this position, set the knees down, move the knees over to the right side of your mat. So you probably need to move your feet, then move your knees over to the right side, and then sit onto your left hip. So you look real casual, which, you know, everyone's aim. Left fingertips are pointing towards the front of the yoga mat. Take a wee bend in the elbow, and then turn so you can get your feet flat to the ground. So you're definitely on your butt. So you go from left hip to butt down. Send your right leg a little bit straighter. Left leg straighter. And go onto your right tiptoes. Allow your left shoulder to ride up towards your ear, so it's a bit of a slump. And then exhale, both draw it down and then roll it back. Inhale, push into your right foot and begin to lift your hips up. So you create this little flip dog-like sensation. If that's too strong, bend your left leg and do this so you're lifting the pelvis up but the knee is down. Exhale, sit the hips down. So you're turning back towards the back of the mat. Inhale, lift the hips up. So it's like a little flip dog series. Maybe you're doing it knee down. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Okay, now from this place, take your right hand behind. You're probably going to have to move your left hand. Well, not probably, you're definitely going to have to move your hands over. And then set the feet, so the feet point towards the back of your mat, fingertips point towards the front of the mat, which I realize now, perspective-wise, is the back of your mat. Take a wee bend in the elbows. Inhale, lift chest. Exhale, press into your feet and lift up into a reverse tabletop. Wrist sensitive, maybe hands turned out, will give you a better brace of the floor. If it's comfortable, go for straight legs. Now this is a bigger strain for your back muscles because suddenly your bent leg strength, your butt muscles engaging is going to work differently in straight legged, so it may not feel appropriate. Inhale, lower your hips down, move them towards the right side of your mat at your current vantage. Turn yourself around so you're coming back towards tabletop. It's a bit of a faff, but trust me, you see when it flows one breath to movement, it's gorgeous. Set the knees down, move them over towards the left side of your mat, and then sit the hips down, turning towards the back of your mat. The right leg is pointing to the back of the mat. Lift your left toes, and remember you can do the halfway house version of this, which is the right leg bent, or right leg straight. Take a wee bend in your right elbow. Allow the shoulders to draw down and back, so it's really wrapped. Inhale, lift the pelvis up. So remember, you can do the bent-legged version where the hips are down. Exhale, lower the hips, but without the shoulder slumping back up. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Now, once you're down this time, send the arms towards the back of the mat, which is the front of your mat, and move your hips over. Now, we're not doing the hip lift in this one. Walk your fingertips back a wee bit and take a wee bend in the elbows. Squeeze your shoulders back, lift chest, and now start to walk your butt away from your arms. This is giving you like a double chest opener. Take care the head loves to drop forward, the elbows love to hyperextend. Only go as far as you can whilst maintaining bent elbows and a long neck. It may not be far. So your aim is to find where is a tolerable chest stretch. Maybe it's going further to see what is happening. All right, now if you walked your pelvis away, walk it back. Maybe you're sliding it back, turning back towards the right, come back onto your hands. Downward facing dog. Don't worry, that's not going to be our flow if you're thinking, oh my gosh, is that the flow for today? No, don't worry. Inhale, shift into more of a plank position, go knees up. Exhale, lower your hips down. So pelvis is still off the mat, hips are lowering down, and lift the skull. Downward facing dog. Exhale, send the hips up and back. Upward dog with toes tucked. Inhale, shift forwards, toes are tucked, head is lifting. So obviously if you want less back bend, don't go as low. Maybe the hips are lowering down a bit more. Exhale, press the hips up and back. Inhale, forwards. Exhale, press the hips up and back. Have a look towards your left wrist. Pigeon back bend. Bring your left knee towards your left wrist and set the right knee down. So the left leg is at about a 4 o'clock position if your head is at 12. Right toes are helping you slide back a wee bit. the hips don't need to go down, so like they might be in a state of hover. Now to create the back bend here, take a wee bend in your elbows, draw your shoulders back and think what you were doing in up dog. There was a lifting in the skull to help create that arc. This might be where you stay with this. Now, just a note, I work with my back toes tucked just because of the weight in the knee. It is personal preference, whether you go for foot flat or toes tucked, whichever feels better. Either be here, drawing your shoulder blades back and like 20% down, so it's not like a death squeeze down, it's just a wee bit. Some of you might be able to navigate to fingertips. Now this is a stronger back bend and it requires stronger back muscles and a willing spine to tolerate that. So it might be towards fingertips. Stronger day, you're squeezing the shoulder blades back. Now this is obviously a big shoulder strength or a big back strength. There's a lot of arc happening. It may not be appropriate. So if you're thinking, oh, mornings, maybe it's not today. It's a biggie. Inhale, lower down a little bit from where you were. If your hands are up, take the hands down. Tuck the right toes, step back. Set the knees down. Instead of going through half salutation, bring your butt so it is atop the knees. Take care, this loves to turn into child's pose, which it isn't. Start to walk the hands forwards. Now, low back sensitive, you might find that back bending here doesn't feel good. With the arms straight and the neck and shoulders relaxing down, the spine is actually fairly straight and you're still getting a chest opener, there's still weight bearing. More flexible day, if your back is willing to move like that, then you're thinking about the underarms coming down, maybe the chin coming down. So you're seeing what feels relevant. They are both chest openers, they're both doing roughly the same thing, one is just further than the other. Inhale, bring yourself up from there. Hands are probably still in roughly the same position. Tuck toes and press into downward facing dog. Pigeon back bend. Inhale, bring the right knee forwards. Shin is at about an 8 o'clock. Use the left toes to start to slide the hips back as much as feels doable. If you need support, this could be where you're putting something under the pelvis, but nothing too big. If you've put like an entire armchair under there, that's probably a bit much. I'm also exaggerating a little bit. Pull with your arms and scoop the chest forwards. So this pose is called pigeon. It's not because when you lean forwards you look remarkably like a pigeon. It's because pigeon in essence is a back bend. So like you end up in this pose where you're kind of pigeon chested and going that way for your foot, but not today. So just as a notion, when you do it in other classes, they're doing pigeon forward bend. They need to be clear on that because it is a back bending pose. So either use your arms like up dog to pull your chest forwards to create a bit of a bend, lifting the neck, or be up on the fingertips, which might give you a bit more back bend, or bring the arms up. If your arms are up but your hips are kind of off kilter to the side, that's going to feel really garbage in one side of the back. So you want to be as level as possible if you're doing hands free. Otherwise the foundation isn't quite there to be built upon. So without being the guy that quotes Bible parables, you don't want to build on a foundation of sand. Oh God, there's my indoctrination showing. Alright, now inhale, lower the hands down if you had them up. Press back to all fours, but get the pelvis more above the knees. Come down onto the elbows and bring the elbows pretty close to each other. How close, you'll discover in a second. The elbows should be close enough that they're, well, close to each other, but far enough away that you can get your head down in between, but only just. Arms should feel like they're touching your head. Same as the previous puppy pose, exhale to relax your chest down towards the ground, perhaps bending the elbows so the fingers point towards the ceiling. So this is dolphin prelude, a little bit of a back bend. So these aren't great, big, huge, but from a postural point of view, they are opening up into the shoulders in a wonderful way, similar to the openings we were looking at right at the start of practice. Inhale, release the hands down if you had taken the arms elsewhere. Bring the shoulders over your elbows and bring the hands under the shoulders. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Let's just do a quick check of the length of your down dog. Inhale, shift forwards into plank. You should be able to do that without a hand or foot change. If not, the dog is maybe a different size altogether. Exhale, press the hips back. Lunge, step your left foot directly behind your left wrist and then set the right knee down. So this should create, hopefully, a bit of a 90-degree angle pose, and then bring yourself up. It is personal preference whether your back foot is tucked or flat. You may want to fold in a wee bit of padding underneath that right knee. Left hand is on the left thigh and using it to do a bit of a pull to help bring the right ribs forward. So pelvis, collarbones facing straight ahead. Inhale, bring the right arm up and have the right palm facing left. Exhale, bend the right arm and bring the hand towards the nape of your neck. So you might be holding the nape of the neck, that might work for you. Inhale, send the right elbow upwards. Exhale, take a little side bend left. So the body is leaning towards that left side. Maybe you can get that left forearm down. So this is part one. Bit of a side bend, bit of a lunge. Exhale, tuck your tailbone down. So maybe now starting to speak to the front of the right hip. Stay in the pose and navigate how willing your legs are to lower into the lunge a wee bit. Now this pose, as long as you've not got any low back stuff, this can stay as a side bend and that's fine. If you want a wee bit extra, twist the right low ribs forwards. So thinking not the pelvis, but the upper back can twist to create more of an opening into the deep front line of the body. So like right side low abdomen. If your head is getting pulled forwards by your arm, actively press the head back. It will feel a bit like an awkward chin tuck. I think that's preferable to a dropped head. Inhale, set the right hand down. Okay, we reach a choice point. Now this choice, you're either going to be doing a pose that is so casual it is fully lying down, or you're doing one that requires pretty much your entire body's strength. Choices, okay? Here's the choice. The first one is either laying down on the side, how casual, holding onto the left leg, or holding onto the foot. I mean, it's super casual. So this is repeating some of the work we did on that underarm side. It might get flattened to the ground. Or, right knee can be down in a half plank, or in side plank, bringing the left knee up, or holding onto the foot. So really, like, you're really choosing your demon with this one. So either lay on the right side, on the right underarm, and take a wee bend in the legs, and bring the left knee up. You might be holding the knee or working the legs straight in. That one always makes me think of like exercise DVDs. Or right knee is down, working side plank variation, maybe bringing the knee up, which will test your balance. Or if you're on the pinky edge of the right foot, the knee is coming up. Ideally, your shoulder is a wee bit behind the line of your wrist rather than directly on top. Directly on top is going to be super uncomfortable. So see which part is your part for today. If you're thinking none of these are, the lying down one probably is. Okay, downward facing dog. So wherever you are, find a way there, even if it means booking a taxi. Lunge, step the right foot behind your right hand. So you're thinking toes to wrist, and then set the knees down, and then come up. Right forearm is coming onto that right thigh. This will give you like a wee bit of support. Inhale, take the left arm up, and bend the arm so the hand is coming towards the nape of the neck. You can pull upwards on the skull and neck here. Exhale, side bend to the right. So chest is facing forwards for now, and this might be where you stay. Maybe starting to gradually sink into the lunge. If your right heel is lifting, then just take the feet a little further away from each other. If you're curious about the extra opening for left side low belly, spin the left ribs forward so there is a mid-back twist. If your pelvis twisted, it's going to get really grumpy down there. Now, any pose where you were opening up the arm like this, into the ribs, kind of what we've been thematically working on all the time, the deeper you get your breath, the more you're going to stretch the connective tissue around the ribs, the abdomen, and all of that stuff. So a deep breath rather than a fast breath would be marvelous. Side plank, or the other one's called Shiva's couch, the one where you're lying down. So either left hand is down, focusing on finding the balance point for the side plank. Maybe you're down on the left side, bending the elbow. Legs are bent because it doesn't need to be too intense a balance. And bringing the right knee up, or holding on to the foot. So again, with this one, I always feel like I should have like my leg warmers on and my neon headband, which I do have. And surely you all have them for like every occasion. Right, now from where you are, instead of going to down dog, simply bring yourself around towards a seated position. So it does not need to float, it does not need to be glamorous. Pose wise, if you're able to support this pose in straddle, then support it in straddle because it will move differently. If straddle is bothersome, you can sit on a block and bend the legs and narrow the stance. Obviously the angle will be a little bit different, but this will still give you really good support. If you feel that your pelvis is curling under, it's not a great position to side bend in. You're creating some, I think, quite risky shapes for the low spine, and I don't think they need to be practiced. So really thinking, are you on sit bones and upright, or do you need some support? If not, cross-legged will totally still work. Straddle people. So whichever angle this straddle is, you're not trying to shove your pelvis forwards like some inane competition. Whatever angle allows you to be upright and comfortable, bring the right forearm onto the thigh. Inhale, bring the left arm up for a side bend. Exhale, turn the palm so it is turning towards that right foot. Now there is a prerequisite list coming your way. If forearm on thigh feels good and you're getting a bit of a side bend, great, stay there. If you were able to take the forearm down to the inside of the leg, great, maybe you go there. If your right ribs are pretty much on your thigh, then you have a bit of a green light to navigate the deeper version of this. The deeper version of this is not done by taking the hand in front of the face. That is just like the shortcut to nowhere. Instead, it is coming up and over, wrapping the shoulder to come into that big old side bend. It's a big old side bend. Or wherever it needs to in between. So if your ribs are coming down onto the thigh, you might be able to come up and over to get a hold of that foot. It is a deceptively great big ginormous side bend. Have the left arm straight-ish, palm facing down, so you feel that wrap is happening through the shoulder. Inhale, reach with the left arm to bring yourself up. Give yourself a second here, almost do a wee back bend because it's a really intense side bend. Get anchored back down through both sit bones. Bring the left forearm down onto the left thigh. Inhale, bring the right arm up and over. Exhale, wrap right shoulder blade towards the underarm. So either being here, maybe coming down to the inside, and if ribs and thighs are feeling like they're connecting, then the arm may be coming up and over to take a hold of that foot. If the arm has gone in front of the face, it's kind of just that performative action of touching your toes, but it hasn't done anything. Once you are able to get a hold of your foot, push away with that foot. You will feel that your side bend goes, oh my gosh, there's another decade in here. I like to think it's like when you find another pocket in your jacket that you didn't know was there. It's like that. The same sort of ooh sensation, especially if it's got a fiber in it for reasons yet unknown. Now obviously if you're going into the big side bend, it's also a big action for your shoulders, so play sensibly. Inhale, bring yourself up. Now especially straddle people, this is a rough place to sit if you're not used to it. Use your hands to assist in bending the legs and bring them towards each other. Shift the legs towards an easy cross-legged. So there's cross-legged like this where your heels are pretty much in at your, and then there's a cross-legged where your heels are actually at your knees. This is called, it has a different pose name, it's called Sukhasana. So this means easy pose-ish. In this place, take your hands behind you. Inhale, lift your chest up. Exhale, draw your shoulder blades back and then simply lift the skull. So you're not whipping your head back, but you're lifting up. I almost like to think that I'd be in like a Pantene commercial under a waterfall, like water flowing off of my moustache. Sadly, they don't have any market for that, but they're missing out. Just think of all that hipster cash they could be getting. Inhale, bring yourself up. Set the feet flat to the floor. Exhale, curl tailbone under and begin to lower down towards your lower back, mid-back, and shoulders, and bring the knees into the chest. Curiously take some movement through the legs, either side to side or squeezing the legs in to feel how the shoulders and neck are relating to the ground. Everything we've done has been for that section of your back. And then set up for Shavasana, final relaxation pose. So you might be choosing a supine position. If you liked chest opener, how we started, you're welcome to go back to that. There's something wonderful about finishing class the way we started class to get that lens of comparison. Not that you should be massively comparing, but it can be an interesting observation. So choose a comfortable rest position. If you're using your Shavasana to just get another pose in, it's not really for that. Well, not at all. Begin to deepen your breath. Come back to that steady breath that moves the chest. Now we've done a lot of work today to build into some really big muscle groups. So you may feel more tired than usual after this class. Instead of seeing that as a negative that's drained you perhaps more than you thought it would, see it as a positive. We did some great work. Take some movement into your fingers and toes. And then bend your legs, setting your feet to the floor. From where you are, roll to your left and come up towards a comfortable and sensible seated position. Once you're up, go for a palms up on the knee pose and slide the upper arms down. So notice it's not a shoulder blade action. Indirectly speak to the shoulder blades via your elbows sliding down. Be aware of the positioning of the head and neck and lean the head back a smidge. Bring your hands together at chest. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bow forwards. Namaste.